let's start with the manager situation at Tottenham and whether that will have any effect on Harry Kane, and actually whether it just even Conte's departure has any effect on Harry Kane.
Well, I don't think what's gone on at Tottenham recently can have impressed Kane, because it's been a shambles. I think Kane will be very conscious of the fact that 2 years ago, almost exactly, they sacked a big name, highly paid manager who was going to take Tottenham to the next level, and then had to scramble around the rest of the season without a proper manager while trying to find the next one. And that of course was, those were the events that led to Kane's attempting to force a move to Manchester City unsuccessfully. And now 2 years later, they're back in the same position. So I'm sure from Kane's point of view, the one thing he would have wanted is for Tottenham to try and match his ambition, match his level, show a bit of progress. And yet Tottenham are back precisely where they were 2 years ago. And on that basis, I think you could have every sympathy with Kane thinking, I can't be bothered to go through this again, if he were thinking that.
Madam?
Well, it all depends. I mean, the problem is we don't really know what Harry Kane wants anymore. It's been quite a long time, really, since he's publicly, expressed what he wants to be. I mean, does he want to be? I mean this in the most polite way possible. Does he want to be the Alan Shearer of Tottenham? In which case, he'll have a fantastic career. He'll be a legend at that football club. He'll have a huge amount of respect post-career. But, there may always be that little bit of wonder about, could I have gone to a different club and won more trophies? Obviously, the difference with Alan Shearer is Alan Shearer actually won a Premier League title before he went to Newcastle. Or does he want to go down that kind of, I suppose, Robin van Persie route, where you've been at a club for quite a long time, you're individually hugely recognised, but you have that scratch, that yearning to go and win something before you go. I think one of the difficulties with it, and this is one of the real difficulties, is a part of a Manchester City that there's nowhere you can really go in English football now that actually guarantees you win a Premier League title in the way that maybe in 2012, when Robin van Persie was moving, it was really, if you go to Manchester United in 2012, you're probably going to win the Premier League title if Alex Ferguson's there. Or if you go to Manchester City, which was his other choice, you're probably going to win a title because they were so much on the up at the time. Whereas now, actually, I think we all probably expect Man City to win a title in the next 2 or 3 years. But other than that, I mean, it could kind of be anyone of 6 or 7 clubs, to be honest. And therefore, even if he was to leave Tottenham, I don't think it therefore stands as an automatic that he gets the success that we, the media, that Tottenham fans believe we think he deserves. I think he will want to be some semblance of a plan from Tottenham. Like, they can't have another summer this summer like that one. Which one was it where they almost appointed Gattuso, where they were speaking to
2021.
2021, they were speaking to Fonseca, and then they end up with Nuno, and then it's Conte, and it's, what's interesting is I think there is a difference between probably what Tottenham need and what Harry Kane needs. So Tottenham need a process manager the next 2, 3, 4 years to build a new team. And maybe at the end of that 2 or 3 years, you get into a position where you can really compete. Now, it never really works as smoothly as that. Like, maybe Jurgen Klopp's the exception, but I think that's the idea that people have. With Harry Kane, he kind of needs someone. He needs to win now. He needed Conte to work. He needed Mourinho to work. And actually, I thought for his individual performances, both of those managers were quite good. I thought Harry Kane pre-Conte, post-Conte, during Conte, became a better player. I thought he was in better shape than he was before Conte came to the club. Actually, under Mourinho, I thought Harry Kane was quite good. So I think there is this distinction between what does Tottenham need right now and what does Harry Kane need right now, unless Harry Kane is basically just prepared to kind of sacrifice himself and by the end of that 3 years, almost be like, I don't know, a bit like the Brian Robson at the end of his career at Manchester United, where, you've basically put all the slog in for for the 80s, and then at the start of the 90s, you're a bit more bit part, but you get to enjoy that moment where the club finally gets together in some way. But even then, it all kind of depends on the theory that Spurs have a plan to win the Premier League in 3 years' time.
Yeah, I completely agree with Adam that Spurs have a lot of what Spurs have done in the last 3 or 4 years is down to trying to make the most of the peak years of Kane and Son. And it's kind of been a disaster, really. All they've got to show for it is reaching the League Cup final under Mourinho and then finishing fourth last season. Maybe they'll get fourth again this year. But the problem is that now that Kane's got 1 year left, and now that Son is has had such a bad season that it looks more like a decline rather than a blip. I don't think the argument for appointing another short-term win-now manager is quite as strong as it used to be. I think it would be braver for Tottenham to say, right, we're going to rebuild on a sort of 3 or 4 year view, even if that means Harry Kane doesn't get what he wants, and even if that means we're not competing in the top 4 again anytime soon. But fortunately, I mean, I don't know whether this is good or bad, but I don't think that Tottenham are going to do that. I don't think Tottenham are going to be brave and rebuild. I think Tottenham will try and do one more famous manager, and so in that sense, Kane will get the type of manager that he would want. And no one was more loyal to Mourinho than Kane was in the squad, and I'm sure that no one has continued to play better and not sulked under Conte than Kane has. So Kane loves these big name managers that's come in, but sadly the whole process hasn't worked as well as people had hoped.
So is that basically saying, let's get a win now manager again, give it another year, and see what happens from everybody's perspective? And if Kane's contract is down to, well, he's out of contract at the end of that year, then so be it, because he didn't cost us anything in the first place.
Well, I think they would be losing the ability to rebuild if they could sell Kane now and reinvest the money in players. They could have done that.
When's his contract up? Next summer or the summer after?
Next summer.
Next summer.
They could have sold. I mean, if there was an argument in 2021, which I didn't agree with at the time, but some people did, which is that they should have sold Kane for big money to Manchester City, and then done a huge rebuild of the team. I think almost every Tottenham player of the last few years they should have sold before they did. But I think Kane is the one exception because he's so good and he's so important to the football club. The money that they could get in to fund a rebuild now with Kane is obviously much less than it would have been, because he's older and he's got 1 year left. But again, I can't quite see this happening, but I think there is a case for it if they could generate enough money out of Manchester United.
Would there be any acceptance at all from some of the Tottenham fan base that, look, he's given everything, we've tried everything, from Mourinho to Conte to Pochettino, and if he's broken the records for us, he's England's highest ever goal scorer, etc. That if he wants to go and try and win trophies, then good luck. I realise that's that may be.
I think there would be.
Right.
I think there would be some acceptance of Kane's decision if he were to go, but I think it might be. I mean, Manchester United are not set up to win yet. They're not set up to win the title yet. Maybe that would change with Kane's arrival. I think if Tottenham fans, if Kane were to have to leave Tottenham, I think Tottenham fans might find it easier to accept if he were to go abroad. But I'm not sure, as you said earlier, I'm not sure the market's quite there for him abroad. But I think there's a huge amount of sympathy with his own position, given that he's been playing in the Tottenham first team for coming up to 9 years now, and he's done everything that he could have possibly done for the football club, and sadly the team hasn't always been there to make the most of what he can do.
Do you think he would want to go abroad? I mean, it's always very difficult talking about what he thinks and what he wants, because he doesn't talk that. He wants Shearer's record, doesn't he?
He wants Alan Shearer's record, I think. And look, I think if he stays in England, if he stays in England and he doesn't get any major injuries, given that he's still only 29 now, there's every reason to imagine that he would finish, let's say, with 80 plus England goals, 300 Premier League goals, and I don't know, 350, 400 Tottenham goals if he were to stay at Tottenham. And even if he leaves Tottenham, he will probably still get 300 Tottenham goals as well as 300 Premier League goals and 80 England goals. Those records will be more, I think, from my point of view, will mean far more. They will be far more permanent and far better known than, you know, whether or not he might have a medal at home for winning an FA Cup once, or winning a Premier League, or even winning a Premier League once.